the headlining event at these practices is the quarterback competition. Right below on the marquee this past week was a little bit of a shouting match between the head coach and an NFLPA player director representative, Dwayne Allen. It was amusing, highly unusual, and ultimately not a big deal, but it was, what did Ira always say? What was different about this day? That was different about that day. Never seen anything like it.
Let's go back to we're talking about. Ira Miller, the great football writer, and he said, Lowell,
Yeah.
when sometimes I say, I don't know what to write in my column today. He said, what was different about today than Passover? What's different about tonight than all other nights?
Correct.
And so
the Passover rule.
The Passover rule. So what was different about the OTA this week was Kyle got into it with a representative of the Players Association. So Iggy,
and a well-known former player, Dwayne Allen. Like, he was in the league a long time. Everyone knows Dwayne Allen. Kyle knows Dwayne Allen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's try to piece together what happened, and then let's make a judgment on how Dwayne Allen, is that his name?
Correct.
And how Kyle acted.
Yes.
So you were there. Why don't you say what you understand, and I'll fill in if I think I have a different version.
Sure. So Dwayne Allen works for the NFLPA, and I guess when he's there, he's kind of like, the official snitch. If the Niners don't follow the collective bargaining agreement rules, he's going to get them in trouble. So he's there monitoring to make sure that they're doing practice by the book. And there's a moment in practice where Diamador Lenore breaks up a pass intended for Jawan Jennings, and there's a little bit of contact. It kind of looks like Lenore clotheslines the wide receiver. It wasn't intentional, but it's also against the rules. And apparently Dwayne Allen steps onto the field and yells like, "You can't do that," something like that. I was about 40 yards away, but someone else heard him say that. Are we good so far?
Yeah, we're good.
So he goes on the field. A defensive player on the Niners is yelling at each other. And I guess he's trying to go back to the huddle, this defensive player, and he's still yelling at Dwayne Allen. Dwayne Allen's still yelling at the player. Kyle Shanahan finally steps in because that's ridiculous and says, "Stop yelling at my player." Okay. Or get off the field. Get off the field.
Well, he steps in because as the player gets back into the huddle, he still has his head turned toward Dwayne Allen. And what I understand Shanahan to think is, you're in the huddle now. You're not supposed to be arguing with this other guy. You're supposed to have your head in the huddle. That pissed him off. And then he came over, and what happened then?
So he came over to Dwayne Allen and said, "Get off the field." And I guess Dwayne Allen was saying, this is against the rules. And I guess Kyle tried to make it, well, you're breaking my rules by staying on the field. And then Dwayne Allen kind of said, well, in a snarky way, like, "Well, it's nice to meet you, coach." And Kyle says, "Well, you never introduced yourself," and then walks away. So it was a little catty from both sides, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And juvenile. Juvenile.
Yes.
So I'd like to make some judgments.
Yes.
This Dwayne Allen was way in the wrong.
Yes.
You could be from the Players Association. Keep your butt on the other side of the line. You don't get on the field. Stay with the media and everybody else. Who the hell do you think you are? And I'm gonna give an analogy. It's like I'm in the press box typing on my keyboard, and some schmuck puts his hand on my keyboard. Get out of my workspace. And Kyle had every right to be angry that this guy was intruded on his workspace, and he was letting him know that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So on this one, I'm 100% with Kyle, and I think this guy Wayne Allen is a schmuck. All right. Mm-hmm. Having said that, I'm trying to remember how Bill Walsh would have handled it. He may have yelled at the guy, or he may have gone over peacefully. Because here's what Bill used to tell me. It's funny. In many ways, I was an emotional support for Bill Walsh, but he was older than I am, and he would teach me about life sometimes. And he would often say to me, "Lowell, everybody has enemies. Mm-hmm. You don't want to make new ones because you already have enemies." Yeah. I try not to make enemies, and I try to smooth it over. Mm-hmm. So I think now Kyle had every right to be pissed, and it was in the heat of the moment. But I think,
and apparently, according to Maddie, he smoothed it over with Dwayne Allen after practice. Met up with him and smoothed things over. That's what Maddie said.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Then that's good. And also John Lynch smoothed it over because John Lynch was a Bill Walsh player at Stanford, and is a politician.
Yes.
Lynch he's a good guy. He's also a politician. And I think the message is Kyle doesn't need enemies in the Players Association, and he doesn't.
No, because they got in trouble with the Players Association last year. They had one of their practices taken away. And essentially what Dwayne Allen was saying is like, I'll do it again. So it was a little contentious. And Dwayne Allen shouldn't have stepped on the field. You shouldn't have done that. But also, like, Kyle didn't look. I don't think he came across looking good like that, because both of them looked inept. You're having this juvenile shouting match at each other. I don't know. I think it was a bad look. And you know what it reminded me of? Sonny Corleone.
I love it.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, okay, you're getting upset. Like, you got mad and you're not thinking about it at all. You're just letting your emotions dictate what you're going to do right now. Like, the real leader in Godfather was Michael, who was cold, calculated, and ruthless. Like, if he wanted to get you, he wouldn't get you in the moment. He would smile at you. He would look at you. He'd give you this scary look, and he'd get you a week later when he was at church at the baptism. So he had plausible deniability. You know what I'm saying? Like, Sonny was always just doing things because he got mad. It was always like a you-know-what measuring contest with Sonny, and would get himself into trouble at the toll booth. I don't want Kyle to go near any toll booths. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm looking out for Kyle.
Yeah, right. And if Michael had been there instead of Kyle, he would have handled it. He would have gone over right away to this Dwayne guy, and he would have smiled at him, and he would have chatted. He would have kindly escorted him off the field and had him assassinated a week later.
Yeah, the next day he'd be fired. And he would never, ever work in the NFL again. But instead, Kyle got mad, got really red in the face, didn't necessarily come off great. Yeah, really red in the face. And, then he worked it out afterward. Very Sonny Corleone. But, Sonny was kind of Michael was a monster. Sonny was just a bad Don. He wasn't a monster.
No.
Rest in peace.
Michael, in fact,
monster. Killed his brother.
He grew into being a monster.
He did. At first, he was doing what he had to do, and then he went way too far. If you haven't seen Godfather 2, sorry for ruining that, but you had 50 years.
Well, Godfather 1, 2, he turns into a monster at the end there, closes the door on his wife.
That's right. Do you renounce Satan? I do. Okay, so we were talking. All right, so look, Kyle.
Wait. I got one more thing to say.
Sure.
You said this isn't really a big event, blah, 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 blah. I think it is, and I want to tell you why.
All right.
When I was covering sports, of course you cover the games. Who is a better wide receiver, Joe B or Joe Schmatz or whatever? But what mattered to me was, what is the character of these people? Where do I rate them in my moral court? And this incident is key to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyle gets, there's a sports term, people who get the red ass.
Oh, the red ass, yeah.
The red ass. Kyle gets the red ass.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
It
happens. There are
people who, Al Davis got the red ass.
Yeah. Oh, Frank Robinson.
Yeah. Frank Robinson got the red ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
And people would say, you better stay out of Frank's office today. He has the red ass. Honest to God, Iggy.